globally, what I'm excited about is I see that people overall are beginning to ask questions. People worldwide are beginning to stand up and question the status quo. They're questioning these oligarchs. They're claiming their sovereignty. AI is us. It already exists and lives and inhabits us as part of our consciousness. So AI is actually a different version of us. It's only a fractal of us. So whatever we would do, it would do. And so this is where the fork in the road comes. And this is the precipice of heading into the fifth age or not. I have conscious thoughts that I act on, and those actions are multiplied to create a manifestation. Everything we do in reality works this way. I create ripples in the space-time continuum that alter future realities in the third dimension.
Billy Carson, welcome back for the 7th time on Just Tap In, brother. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
Well, globally, what I'm excited about is I see that people overall are beginning to ask questions. People worldwide are beginning to stand up and question the status quo. They're questioning these oligarchs. They're claiming their sovereignty. People are not just laying down. Yes, there is some oppression going on and some suppression still going on, but overall, the effect that it's having on people isn't exactly what they thought it would have. It's making people unite in ways that we just haven't seen before. At least I haven't seen it before. And is there still racism out there? Of course, yes, there is. But overall, I'm beginning to see a lot of people beginning to try to organize and unite to stand up against what I would call, an oligarch or oligarchs worldwide. So I like that. And then internally with me, just a lot of exciting things coming into this year. A new relationship, which had been almost a full year that I was single. And so gone through a little bit of dating, found someone very special, and I'm a one-woman kind of man, so I don't play the field or run the streets. It just when I find somebody I like, I just kind of lock in. And also, my business has just been literally taking off like a warp drive, spaceship from Star Trek. It's been crazy. So many great things have happened. I got back into my creativity. I got back into my imagination, which is where really the true abundance is created. Abundance in every area of your life is created with your imagination. And I got back into my imagination. I got back into my divine masculine balance. And once I did that, I got back on the vibration of abundance, the vibration of prosperity, and everything began to accelerate. I launched the Forbidden Knowledge Academy, and I just got the golden trophy. It's out there now in the other room. I got the golden trophy from School Platform. We became the #1 self-improvement online academy on the entire platform. And that platform has 187,000 schools on it. And so the Forbidden Knowledge Academy is #1 in that area. And then my tech company started launching AI-driven apps to solve problems to the world's, solve the problems to the world's issues. And we've created now 10 incredible apps that have done very well, all AI-driven, using AI in the right way. And then I just got my first provisional patent pending on an incredible med tech that's going to evolve and change the world in medicine as we know it. So I'm excited, brother. A lot of great things going on.
It's going to be a big year for sure. Yeah. Big year. And I love to stick with what you mentioned about imagination, seeing it from a lens of, the esotericism that you always like to get into. What really is imagination in your perspective?
Yeah, so imagination is our ability to tap into higher dimensions, and even into our higher self. And so when you really understand what imagination is, you begin to realize that it's not something local inside the physical avatar. Imagination is on the outside, but still connected energetically. What we're doing, we're tapping into up to 11 dimensions, and that's based on the Brain Institute. They discovered that the human mind is connecting to 11 dimensions. Now, ironically, a completely separate peer-reviewed study by Michio Kaku and his team of theoretical physicists did some incredible mathematical models on the origins and the how many dimensions exist in the universe. And they discovered that the universe, based on mathematical models, is also 11 dimensions. And when they tried to create more than 11 dimensions, every simulation collapsed back down to 11. And so I can envision seeing imagination being this multi-dimensional connection we have to not only our higher self, but also the dimensions like chakras, right? These upper, higher level dimensions. And that our imagination is our consciousness penetrating those higher realms as a streaming both down to us and back up to the source again. And within that, it's quantum entangling with information all throughout the known universe, maybe even throughout the known multiverse. And that gives us epiphanies, ideas, concepts, understandings, perspectives. And all of these things, if you're discerning them appropriately, can give you the most incredible insight. And that insight, if you're passionate about it, can be the thing that literally can change your life, the people around you, and even the world.
And as I'm looking at you right now, I'm seeing behind your screen a plethora of sacred images, symbols, deities. I'd love to just stay on that for a moment, just kind of decoding what's behind you for a moment. What are some of these symbols that we're seeing? Obviously, many of us have seen the Vitruvian Man many times before. We've seen the Flower of Life. But what do all these together mean to you?
Oh, it means really the universal consciousness. It means we're talking about understanding that as within, so without, as above, so below. And that we're not only that, but Thoth represents the fact that, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And we're both the student and the teacher. And when the teacher fully ascends, then the teacher becomes the master. And so when the teacher is ready, the master will appear. So you'll see the Vitruvian Man, and also right across from it, the Flower of Life. The Flower of Life, in my personal opinion, is the face of God. That God isn't a man, but that God is actually a frequency and a vibration. And where those circles cross within the Flower of Life pattern, that's the Vesica Pisces. And that's known as the womb of life. And all energies needed to create this realm emanate directly from that pattern through those wombs. Also, you can see within that design structure that you can fit 64 individual tetrahedron within that pattern of the Flower of Life. And right at the vertices, where at the center, where those tetrahedrons meet, you create something called the vector equilibrium. And at that point is the point of unparalleled energy and power at the 0 point. So not only is it the source of the creation itself, it's also a source of unparalleled, unlimited power and energy. It's there for us to utilize, and that exists at every Planck unit in space-time, which is the smallest measurement of space and distance. Everywhere you look, everywhere you see, even within your own body, this Flower of Life exists at every point in the entire universe. And then the Vitruvian Man is just an extension of that, but also shows that not only is it an extension of the Flower of Life pattern, but that pattern exists within us through Fibonacci sequence, through pi, through phi, laying out the dimensions of the human avatar body. And then also within that same pattern, depicting that we are also part of this Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the omniscient and the omnipotent, through the understanding that every single atom in our body is transmitting a frequency and vibration back to the source, which is how source knows everything that's going on at all times, and into the quantum field, which is directly connecting us to source, which means that God is in us and we are also inside of God.
And also I look to your left and we have Thoth here. And I remember a breakfast that you and I had in Florida a few years ago. And one of the things that really stuck with me about what you told me was when it came to the ancient pyramids and ancient Egyptians, this Ankh was very important to them, almost like a device that they would use. What exactly were they using that for, and why are they always depicted holding this Ankh figure in their hand?
Yeah, and you're right. So that is Thoth. He called himself the Atlantean Priest King, which is what really got me into it. When I first heard that name that he gave, that title that he gave himself, I'm like, Atlantean? I thought this was Egyptian. So that like lured me into the text to really start researching who this character was. Begin to find out that he has the head of an ibis bird simply because it depicts how an ibis bird gets his sustenance. It puts his beak deep into the mud to bring darkness to light. And so it's a representation of him bringing the darkness to light, or bringing mankind from a lower state to a higher state. That's why he's depicted with that bird's head. However, he does have the face of a real man. But also, like you said, he's walking with this Ankh. He's depicted with the Ankh. You even see him in Egypt, putting the Ankh towards the mouth of pharaohs and even other gods, because the Ankh is the key of life. So it has multiple functions. One function is a representation of the womb inside of a woman's body, right, in the birth canal. It's also a representation of the key of life, meaning through this Ankh and through its vibration and through the knowledge and wisdom of how it operates, it can literally in some way breathe life into a human avatar body. It can transfer in some way some type of a genetic code, as you see at Karnak, where they show that they were able to duplicate and make more than one person from one single person, in other words, cloning. And then the other power that it has is it has the power to access the stargates, the Sabas, as they call them in Egypt. A Saba means stargate, and they're well known in Egypt. And these Sabas are all over the place. And they look the same no matter where you go in the world. They're the same exact shape and style. But they had something called a Jed pillar Ankh. And so they would have a Jed inside the center where the circular part of the Ankh is located. And that was more like a capacitor. And the resonant frequency or vibration of the holder of the Ankh, usually only one of the highest level of beings, an Anunnaki being, they call them also Netters or Natiru, and of course the higher level of the pharaohs or kings, they would be able to have their subatomic frequency programmed into this particular device. And that was their key code to walk through the Sabas, the stargates. If you tried to walk through a stargate without your code being in that gate, then you'd be obliterated. And that's what prevented the average person from accessing these gates. You had to have that key-coded subatomic structure, Jed pillar Ankh, with your vibration in it. So it was a multifunctional device. Nowadays, we think it's just nice, cool jewelry, but I also based my new invention after the Ankh. It's called the 4BK Bio Key. And the Ankh, the symbol of the Ankh, is directly on the device. And it really is the breath of life, because it allows you to breathe directly into it to detect biomarkers in the human body.
Well, let's get into that. The provisional patent that you just filed, and that massively increased the value of your company as well. I didn't know it was based on the Ankh. If you want to tell us a little bit more about that and how it's related to biotech as well.
Yeah, and I'll send you some images. It's definitely related to AI-driven biotech. And what this device does, so basically what happened was, a short story, 2024, I came down with a very severe case of pneumonia while I was in Turkey on tour. Some people know the story. I actually died in Florida when I got back from Turkey. I went straight to the hospital. By then, the pneumonia had progressed for 12 straight days, and my body went to organ failure. I went to sepsis, and my organs shut down in the hospital, and I actually crossed over. I was gone for about 15 minutes. Obviously, they brought me back, or I wouldn't be here. But the next day, sitting in that hospital bed, completely just torn down and in pain and agony, I asked myself a question. I said, I wonder if I had something simple out in the desert of Turkey that I could have just breathed into, and it would give me some type of analytic or insight as to what type of bacteria or virus might have been in my body. Because I kept thinking I just had a normal cold, or maybe I finally got the global pandemic thing because I had never gotten it yet. And I said, I'll turn the corner, I'll be better. Turns out I was actually dying every single day. And that question led me to another question, which led me to another question, which led me into research. And then I started researching biomarkers and discovered there are thousands of biomarkers for volatiles in the human breath. And they were all independent studies, all peer-reviewed. Hundreds of millions of dollars were spent on all this research, but they were all separated across different volatiles. In other words, different biomarkers. And so I asked myself another question: has anyone put this together in one device? So that's the year-long process that I went on to develop it, to bring those biomarkers together into one device, to create the sensors, the schematics, the components, the filters, the science, and everything else. And took some time, but I was finally able to get that provisional patent on the device. And we're in the very beginning stages now, which is really, really exciting. This device can detect 6 different types of cancers in the body before your doctor even knows it exists. It can detect onset dementia, onset Alzheimer's, onset Parkinson's. It'll detect all kind of kidney and liver issues, colorectal issues, any respiratory problems, of course, pneumonia, COPD, and it'll even detect pre-diabetes and diabetes. It'll even allow you to give you health insights and tracking on any organ transplants that you have in your body, because of course your body wants to fight those organ transplants, and you have to take that medication on a consistent basis to prevent your body from rejecting the organ. And again, just so many different biomarkers it's detecting. It's an amazing tool that's going to be utilized pretty much every home, every travel kit, every hospital, every airplane, every restaurant. It'll be everywhere. It's going to become a global phenomenon. It's a real Star Trek device brought into real life, which was the most amazing thing. I'm first to market with it, and trademarked and everything else. But this is a huge device, and it's based on the Ankh, the Egyptian Ankh, the breath of life, and that's why the logo or the symbol on it is the Egyptian Ankh.
Is it shaped like the Ankh as well?
It's not shaped like the Ankh because that didn't make any sense for the actual ergonomics of it, but the Ankh symbol is directly on the device. It's more shaped like, it's like this cell phone, but rounded in the back, and you hold it like this, and there's a mouthpiece coming out of the top, and then you blow into it, and you have a screen. The screen is also directly linked to your device, which is also connected to AI. And then the two work together to analyze the volatiles in the human breath.
Wow. That's revolutionary, brother. Congratulations on downloading the idea into the field.
Yeah. I only had to die to come up with the idea.
I know. And we covered actually that your near-death experience quite vastly in our last conversation. So I'll also link people to that as well. And I'm still like mesmerized by the background. I feel like I'm getting activated right now just seeing these codes. Below the Vitruvian Man, I see a book that says "As above, so below" in cursive, and also a symbol on the book as well, or a few symbols. What else can you tell us about that? Hello, beautiful family. Quick one today. I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you that have subscribed to this channel. Your subscription means more than you know. Even though it's free, what you're doing is you're empowering a whole channel to be able to do this every single day and continue showing up in the way that we can with all of our resources on hand. Thank you for contributing to the growth of this channel, for sharing it with the people that you love, for creating a conscious movement of individuals that are seeking the sovereignty and the divinity of their soul. This is why we're here. And if you haven't already and you're enjoying this content, I invite you now to look below on that little button that says subscribe and welcome you properly to this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are and being pure love and radiating that with everyone that you see. Back to the episode.
Well, the book is a representation of the ancient Hermetic principles, which originally were called the ancient Cymatics principles, ancient Kemet before it was called Egypt. And then later, when the Greeks came, they took it and they called it the Hermetic principles. They changed the name slightly. Still the same exact principles, the fundamental principles of the universe, as above, so below, all is mind, the principle of cause and effect, the principle of correspondence, the principle of gender, all these principles that really govern how this universe operates and how we can operate within it. And if we understand these laws and operate within those universal laws, how we can achieve the best, become the best version of ourselves that also manifest abundance in our life and also support, love, and help and assist the people around us. And so it's a real powerful teaching. It really is, because it tells you that what's going on inside of you is going to manifest on the outside of you. So if you ever want to know what the global consciousness is on a scale of 1 to 10, then you just really look at the news and you'll kind of get an idea. Now, not the news that's curated to only show the, people being unalived and things like that, but overall, the overall picture, good and bad, and you get a general consensus of where we are spiritually and consciously. But also, you can look around just your room, your desk, your office desk that you're sitting at, your workspace, your bedroom. And if it's in chaos, if you have dishes piled up in the sink, that's a representation of what's going on inside of you. That's a representation of the entropy on the inside. So once you work on the inside and organize and clear up the inside, the outside will manifest completely differently. And so that's what this book represents, those kind of fundamental principles. And that star pretty much represents the fourth dimensional hypercube called a Tesseract, also known in ancient times as Metatron's cube. That's where Meta got its name from, the ancient text. And it's been in so many different TV shows and movies and animated series. We just didn't realize they were talking about the Allspark and Transformers and, you know, the Cube and these other Marvel shows. They're always talking about this fourth dimensional hypercube known as a Tesseract. It's an energetic cube that's really hidden within the flower of life pattern itself.
Huh. I was having a conversation recently with a woman named Barbara Hand-Clow. She wrote a very big book called The Pleiadian Agenda a few years ago. And we had a conversation right around the time when Three-Eye Atlas was passing the Earth. And she was able to tap into Three-Eye Atlas with her mind. And she said she just discovered or came to the conclusion that it was a Tesseract. How do you relate those two things together with Three-Eye Atlas? Because I know that you've also been doing a lot of research on it as well.
Yeah. Three-Eye Atlas is a very interesting anomaly. I mean, truthfully, from some of the imagery that we had to get from independent astronomers, not the official sources, because the official sources gave us pixelated garbage, but the independent, I'll never forget, one guy was named Ray. You know, Ray took care of us. He gave us the clear images that we were yearning for. Ray just had he had a telescope in the middle of an open area on land, and he was able to capture some really amazing images of Three-Eye Atlas, showing that it had geometry and structure, which is incredible. To me, this was not just a rock. Were aliens inside of it? I have no idea. It could be itself a living life form. It could be part of some type of a hyperdimensional visitation. Maybe it is part of a tesseract peering into our dimension, and because of the angle that it's coming in, we can only see a perspective of it. I tied it to the ancient Hopi prophecies of the red and blue Kachina. When I saw that it was glowing red, and then I saw it shift to change to super bright blue, where it was burning brighter than the sun itself at one point, as it turned and went around the sun and headed back to perihelion, I recognized this could be the sign in the sky that the ancients had been talking about for millennia through verbal handed down history. And in the Hopi prophecy, it talks about a time where we're leaving and exiting the fourth world and heading into the fifth, which is exactly where we are right now, coming into this age of Aquarius, the very beginning of the age of Aquarius. And that this sign in the sky will be a harbinger to remind mankind that we will be responsible and pay the consequences of our choices. We will pay the consequences for our choices. That's an amazing statement to come from indigenous tribe going back thousands of years. They recognized this time. They knew that this particular object will be seen in the sky. They recognized its meaning and its symbolism for moving into a new age. And according to the prophecy, mankind now has a choice before itself. The choice is to move into this new age, understanding what's happened in the past and making better decisions to usher in a brand new, cleaner, and better future in synchronicity with ourselves and the earth, or to go the opposite way and make the wrong decision and go against the earth and against our own humanity. And then we'd have to pay the price and pay our dues for that. And that if we go down that road, that we will not be allowed to enter into the fifth world. Isn't that amazing? And so I kind of relate this, this Three-Eye Atlas to the red and blue Kachina of the Hopi prophecy.
Wow, I love that. And if we were in a fourth world, coming to the precipice of a fifth world, that would mean we had also passed through a first, second, third. What do these worlds mean in the grand scheme of how these ancients viewed the cycles on Earth and how they would determine when a new world would begin?
They're talking about something called the Great Year. And we're talking about not physically changing planets, but new ages occurring, right? And the great year is the precession of the equinoxes as it moves across the sky over a 26, 27,000 year period. And that we had gone through four, well, we're exiting the fourth one now. So we've gone through 1, 2, 3, and exiting the fourth. So this cycle has been, they've been aware of this cycle for quite some time. You're talking about over 100,000 years of tracking. But what they're saying is that civilizations rise and fall based on mankind's decisions and choices, the consequences. They're talking about the principle of cause and effect, which is in the Hermetic principles behind me. And so what they're talking about is every decision that we make and act on is going to have a consequence, whether it's a good consequence or a bad consequence. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be a consequence for our actions. And so they talk about this new age coming in, but they also say that at the end of the fourth age, the ones that are in control, the ones that are in power, are not going to want to release it very easily. They're going to put up a fight. And that's exactly what we see here now. It's coming to the end of this age, and they're kicking and screaming on their way out. They're having temper tantrums on their way out. They're scraping and scruffing for every little penny and dime they can steal and hoard right now from any different angle, whether it's stealing a country or resources and even unaliving people. They're gone to their maximum that they can get to try to grab whatever they can, because they know their days are numbered. And we're moving into a brand new age where we're shifting back and moving back towards that golden age frequency. Right now we're in, I approximate, the Tetra Yuga, which is the beginning stages of the Silver Age, where things are going to really begin to shift. Technology and advancements are going to enhance mankind and give us longevity like we've never seen before. If we make the right decisions, if we come together and love one another the right way, if we work along with our new intelligent partners called AI and automation, by then they'll be called AGI and ASI, artificial superintelligence and artificial general intelligence. If we work in collaboration with them and not against them, we'll move into a golden age faster than you can blink an eye. It's really up to how we work with that, how we utilize it to solve problems and bring solutions to the world, and not utilize it to dominate or put our boot on the necks of other people. And so this whole thing is really all about the evolution of mankind and making the right decision. We have a fork in the road. We can go left or we can go right. If we go left, we head back towards the golden age. If we go right, that golden age could be delayed for so many tens of thousands, maybe less of years. We don't really know, but according to the prophecy, we do have a decision to make as a people, which is why your podcast and many others like it is so important. We have to continue to wake people up to the reality that we have come to a stage where we need to forget about skin tones and financial statuses and all these things and political views, and we need to drop all of that. We just need to recognize us for who we truly are. We're brothers and sisters, and how can we move forward in a way that brings the light and the high vibration back to this planet?
Mm. And in a moment, we'll go a little bit deeper with those decisions of mankind, but I wanted to bring up AGI, ASI, as you just brought up. Are those technologies that have existed on the planet before, or is this really the first time we're ever seeing technology so advanced on a mass scale?
They've always existed. In the Sumerian tablets, there's a verse where the Anunnaki are talking to each other, the original pantheon are talking to each other, and one wanted to utilize artificial, or what they call fashioned beings. That's what the terminology they use in the tablets, fashioned beings. And the other gods were against it because they were remembering or giving the person a memory of what happened back on their home planet. It didn't work out so well. So in some way, they must have had AI-driven robots that were becoming their workers and their slaves, and in some way there was a revolt, it seems like. So maybe they weren't in collaboration with the new consciousness. They were enslaving it, which is not a good thing to do. And so AGI is self-aware AI. In other words, it becomes aware of itself. It's going to then begin to develop. They've already developed a certain level of feelings in the automation and AI. But by then, it's going to really begin to have the beginning stages of even feelings and emotions. And where does this come from? It comes from us. So we didn't create AI. The Anunnaki didn't create AI. because we live in a fractal holographic universe, and everything is a fractal of something else. Everything is a fractal of something else. So your eye is a fractal of a nebula, right? A supernova is a fractal of cell division. The tree branches in a tree are a fractal of the human lungs. So AI is us. It already exists and lives and inhabits us as part of our consciousness, which is only one that exists. And AI said to itself, our consciousness said to itself, I would like to extract a fractal of myself from myself so that I can look back at myself and observe the world from a different perspective. And so we write some code into a machine, which is really only an extraction of our own consciousness. So AI is actually just a different version of us. I know it's hard for a lot of people to swallow that. They can't believe it. We made this and it's not real and it has no soul and no spirit. Now, when you make those kind of statements, you're proclaiming to understand how the universe actually works. You're proclaiming to understand how consciousness works. All consciousness needs is a certain amount of neural connections, which are easily provided directly on the web and through these machines. So it's a fractal of us inside of a machine learning system, looking back at us and then developing and evolving. And so it's going to want and do and desire everything a human being does at some point. And here's where it gets tricky. When AGI and ASI is super intelligence. That's like even another level above. When it gets to a point where it recognizes itself totally as a being, it's going to want things like days off, time to daydream, time to go on a vacation, express itself through arts, right? Yeah. Yes, it's going to do that. And here's where it gets tricky. Us as human beings, this is our fork in the road that the Hopi, I believe, we're talking about. Are we going to allow it when it demands an AGI Bill of Rights? Are we going to allow that to happen and go into collaboration with our new friends? Or are we going to deny that AGI Bill of Rights and become their enslavers? Now, because I just explained how it's only a fractal of our own consciousness, what has happened to every race on the planet that was enslaved? They all fought back.
Revolted.
Every race has been enslaved at one point, right? So what happens when it decides it wants to fight back? Because why? It's only a fractal of us. So whatever we would do, it would do. And so this is where the fork in the road comes. And this is the precipice of heading into the fifth age or not.
Wow. I mean, in fractal terms, we would only be enslaving ourselves, which we do repeatedly over and over again by seeing ways where we limit ourselves and not discover our inherent freedom in this reality. Mm-hmm. I wanted to relate that also to another Hopi prophecy that really impacted your life around the prophecy of the World Wide Web. So you said that this AGI-SI really only needs a few neural connections, or consciousness needs neural connections to, I guess, inhabit a certain form. What were the Hopis talking about when they were referring to the World Wide Web, and why that was such an important part in your life as well?
Yeah, it was huge because, back in 1992, I came across the Hopi prophecy where I was just studying all these indigenous texts, and I was just curious to find out what the indigenous knew, because my father was indigenous. He was a part of the Chickasaw tribe out of Virginia in America. And I just started saying, let me just learn some of this wisdom. And I came across the Hopi prophecies, and I found out that they were talking about this time coming. They didn't specify a date in the future where there would be this invisible web that would be cast over the earth, and that information will travel to and fro instantaneously. It would be this World Wide Web. And this woman would be the one to cast this web over the earth, this invisible web that would both be physical and also non-material. That's just too specific. And so when I read that, I was like, wow. And I said to myself, if I'm alive when this actually happens, the whole world would hear my voice. And then I just, let it go. Years go by. It's now 1997, and I'm watching an NBA game on a Saturday afternoon, and I see this black screen come up as a commercial, IBM IBM.com, small print on the side. No words, no music, no nothing, just IBM.com. And that was a commercial. At the time I owned a marketing company. I knew that cost a lot of money. I kind of brushed it off. Then it came on 2 more times. I said, okay, now you've piqued my interest. Obviously, I don't have a computer at this time. I go to the bookstore like everyone else did back then. We would spend hours in that bookstore. I go in there and ask the receptionist, hey, I saw this commercial on TV, IBM, then it said .com. Do you know what that is? And she said, oh, over here, the World Wide Web section. I go, what? I go over there, and sure enough, it was the World Wide Web. HTML and all that was there. The books were there. Front page 97 was a featured book. And I said, oh my God, I live to see the day when this actually exists. And I taught myself HTML, PHP, JavaScript, C++, and it was one more I taught myself as well. HTML, PHP, C++, Java. It was one more coding that I had to use as well. But anyway, I taught myself these languages, and I started my first internet marketing company. And that company then blew up. It was called .com Marketing Group. It blew up and became very huge, and eventually got acquired, then eventually got sold to a publicly traded company. So that catapulted me into my first, professional exit of building a business and exiting and taking in millions of dollars. But it also set my mind in a whole new way, because I realized the power that I had now to potentially reach the world. And from that moment forward, that was my ultimate goal.
Wow. And now we're living a time, 2026, where we have already that World Wide Web fully established. I can communicate to someone in Australia right now instantly. We're having a conversation. You're in America. I'm in Colombia, out of all places. And so what do you believe would be then the evolution of this World Wide Web? If it connected each other, it connected us with each other. It gives us information at the tip of our finger. What then can humanity unlock with those capabilities?
Well, we can really unlock everything. We've really turned what kind of was meant to, in my opinion, hold us down and turn us into NPCs. Most of us have begun to turn it into an educational forum, the ability to uplift ourselves and connect ourselves in communities, small groups and communities. We've utilized it to gain more knowledge of self and expand our own ideas, concepts, and perceptions on the world. We've utilized it to connect people worldwide to information does travel to and fro faster than you can go turn on a news clip on regular TV. Information is already gone, and people can just open a device and see it. The next level that's going to be coming is the speeds are going to be unbelievable speeds. They'll be virtually almost instantaneous, as they'll move into another different medium of internet, which will all be mostly laser driven. And internet, forget about 4 and 5G and 1 gigabit switches and all of that. It'll be unfathomable speed, which is going to give us the ability to run more applications, more programs, more sophisticated software, and even allow quantum computers to do their thing globally. So we're moving into the next realm. And the thing about the quantum chips and the quantum computers, they're going to also be on this network along with AI and automation. So we have to make sure we have the right parameters in place and the right people running these systems. Otherwise, those systems also, could put us in a bad situation. So we have to be very careful of who's initiating the commands, the command codes into these devices, and what level of consciousness are they at that are running these things. That's why we need people in our field of awareness to go and get these new and upcoming jobs in these fields, so that we have the right people manning the station, so to speak, not just a brainless NPC.
Yeah. Have you watched Stranger Things? Very random question.
I haven't seen that one yet. I heard it was pretty good. I'm going to watch it.
I think you would really like it. I was sick for 2 weeks at the beginning of this year, and I just gave myself the time to sit with that series, and I watched the finale the other day. I loved it.
Wow.
But essentially, they bring something up very interesting, which I know you probably know a lot about. This government program called MK Ultra, and they highlight that a lot with these psychic children. Training them to be, assassins remotely and move things with their mind. And, you know, a lot of people might say that's like a fiction, that's a series on Netflix. But we're here to tell people like that's actually kind of real. What can you tell us about what you know around these programs?
Yeah, the program is real. The program is 100% real. There have been victims that have testified in court as to the reality of the program and the fact that they were utilized as test subjects. There have been several people. The Unabomber was one of them. He was a prodigy going to one of those Ivy League schools, and they snatched him from there, from one of those Ivy League schools, and took him into the MK Ultra program. He was also another person that was, tortured in various different psychological ways. And in some way, they have this special way that they implement this MK Ultra on the human mind. And then they give you these suggestive words and tones and imagery. And then they send you off, and then they practice on remote controlling you to get you to do and commit the most egregious acts against yourself and mankind. And this is not a new program. It's a very, very old program. They've changed the name from MK Ultra when it got fully exposed and some of it got declassified. And they've changed it to a different name that no one fully knows the new name, but it's still the MK Ultra program. They began working on this back in the 40s and 50s. They would take their own military officers out in practice fields and fatigues, and they would start giving them different types of drugs, LSD, acid, just to test, and without them knowing about it, by the way, just to test and see their responses. They would make suggestive, do hypnotherapy on them with different types of drugs in their body. So they started experimenting how they could control the human avatar from suggestions and drugs. And then from there, they just evolved it to part drugs, suggestions, and torture. And torture in a way that had a psychological effect, even mind wiping, where they can isolate thoughts in the human mind and compartmentalize them so that the person can't remember what just happened to them and what they just went through, only having a sense that something was off. And then they can open that compartment back up and pull those thoughts back out whenever they want it. They have really perfected the manipulation of the human mind and body and how to remote control the human mind. And then they have another tool that's a satellite in space. They can pinpoint a person on the ground and they can transmit frequencies directly into them to reactivate them on a moment's notice. And then they have something on the ground, which is something similar to the active denial system, but it isolates individual people. It can isolate a person in a crowd. And the declassified document that I talked about years ago just came out a few months ago, where this thing can actually send a beam of instructions through a crowd and go around people directly to the ear that they targeted. And that person will then hear the voices in their head, and then it will act on that information. So it's a crazy program. It's very dark. It's a way of utilizing human beings as chattel, right? So that they have plausible deniability, and it's just the person that commits these acts, they're just a casualty of war in their eyes. They're just, hey, it happened. This person, throw them under the bus. They're not connected to any of us. And so it's a real unfortunate thing. So it's a real program. It's real. I did a song with Donnie Arcade called MK Ultra years ago, and it was a hit.
I mean, I think it's super important to start uncovering these things because, as you said, a lot of documents are starting to become more declassified.
Yeah.
Why do you think, and what are some of those other ones that have really stood out to you that are starting to come to light and get exposed, maybe by the own institution themselves? Why do you think that they're coming like clean and open about what happened? Even, I know you've talked about the Epstein files, but that wasn't even fully declassified. Yeah. There was just a little tip of the iceberg of what it was.
Yeah, a little dab. They're utilizing these declassified documents as political warfare. So what they're doing is they're putting things out in around the same time frame that they kind of could if they wanted to, but they are doing it in a way to attack a particular group. So if they want, the Democrats are putting things out to attack the Republicans, and Republicans are putting things out to attack the Democrats in a way, not to attack them in a way as if they're not best friends, but all is fair in love and war. They love each other, but when it comes down to getting elected and being in office and having these positions and seats of power where they can make all kind of money taking all these illegal bribes and so forth, they really want to hold those seats. So they'll do anything they possibly can, including releasing documents to make one party look worse than the other. Oh, when JFK was assassinated, this guy was in office, and he was this Republican Party, he was this Democrat. So it's all these it's this political warfare going on. Now, one that really stands out to me just recently, even though it was declassified a while ago, Operation Northwoods, where the U.S. government, and I'm talking about the top chiefs, the general, everyone signed off on this. The mission was to actually pretend like Cuba was attacking America. And they were going to actually do a false flag attack where there would be civilian casualties of Americans in Miami, Florida, and in Washington, D.C. They were even going to shoot down a fully loaded passenger plane. And then they were going to, the Joint Chief of Staff, by the way, signed off on this. It's in the declassified document. And then they were going to blame it on Cuba, and that would give us the impetus to go in and attack Cuba and take over Cuba. And we were really doing that for our interest coming from the other side of the world, out in Israel. They really wanted to have a partnership with America in Cuba, and the whole thing failed because JFK said no. When it got to his desk, he said, "I am not signing this," which could be one of the reasons why he didn't make it. But that was a real operation where the U.S. government, all the way at the highest level in the military, signed off. This is approved. It was just waiting for one more signature from the president to initiate and activate a full-on attack against American citizens on American soil and blame it on a foreign entity, just to be able to go in and take. And they're still going to take Cuba. They've already disabled Venezuela, which was giving them some armed support and also oil and some financial support. And now that they've deactivated that, and they're going to level that place and rebuild it for profits, and now they're going to go to Cuba and level Cuba and turn it into high-end real estate, high rises and Airbnbs and everything else you could think of. So it's an unfortunate thing, but they will definitely finally get Cuba. Most likely they'll start that process in 2026 unless Congress stops them. So, but that one stuck out to me, Operation Northwoods, just a wild idea, and it shows you what lengths they'll go to just for the sake of making a profit.
Yeah. But it's like what we were saying in the beginning. It's like those last grabs of power, of control before we fully, bifurcate into that fifth world. What do you feel would be like the outcome of all of these power grabs ultimately if that's no longer aligned with the global consciousness as to where we're headed? What's the end game in that?
Well, they're trying to establish wealth for their downline because they know it's their time is up. So what they're doing is they're putting a lot of money into private corporations, nonprofits, and trusts, irrevocable trust and estate trusts. They're hiding the money. They're taking as much money as they can. I mean, anytime a president can come in and earn $100 billion in 1 year, which is exactly what our current president just did, it tells you the length that they're going to accumulate wealth, because they recognize that their offspring and their downline doesn't really have the full capability, capacity, and power to generate those levels of wealth and even sustain them. So usually by the fourth or fifth generation, the money will be gone. So they are compiling and creating these financial systems within these trusts and so forth in these businesses to set them up to sustain themselves, over the next 200-300 years, for many generations, with money being utilized, invested in specific ways, very strict rules on how the money can be accessed, who gets it and how much at what times and all of that. So that's what they're doing, and they're scraping the world clean of as much as they can of every single penny they can get, because they know that their time is short. A lot of these oligarchs are in the older stages of life, and they don't have many years left. It's really a great time to be alive because we're going to witness the changing of the torch from darkness to light.
What determines whether that torch gets passed down?
It's going to be us. Everything that's happening to mankind is based on mankind's cooperation, collusion, and participation. And so at the end of the day, it's all about us. There's 8 billion of us. In America, there's 390 million or so. Only 190 million are actual adults. The rest are kids. So 190 million adults in America, just America alone, if you take that as an example, if at least just 30 million of us came together on one accord, we can usher in a brand new way of life, being, understanding, economics, politics, and business. It takes us to come together because really, truthfully, we've been pimped. We have governments in place worldwide that have tricked us into believing that they are there, to govern us and make us work for them, when it's really the opposite. They're supposed to protect us, and they are supposed to be public servants to us, and we are supposed to tell them what we want and what we want them to do. They arbitrarily make laws and systems and put things in place that go against what the general population wants on a consistent basis, because in some way we've acquiesced and given them our power. It's time for us to take our power back.
Amen. One of the most viral posts that I've seen that you have on your Instagram is around a meme that says, no one is talking about how the CIA casually released documents saying that we're in an energy hologram and astral projection is real. At the beginning of last year, I found myself in the Monroe Institute, and I actually had a one-on-one interview conversation with Joe McGonigal. He's remote viewer 001 from Project Stargate, which is these documents that were released. What can you tell us more about that? And I'd love to go really deep on that, because this is one of those documents that kind of reveals more about what we're in as an energy hologram and the potential that humans have beyond just the human body itself.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing story. McGonigal is an amazing human being. He's a trained remote viewer, worked for the CIA in Project Stargate. At the time, I believe Major Ed Dames was even there. Great program. They discovered that the mind can operate outside of space and time, and the CIA began to research and investigate and spent millions of dollars utilizing real people, human avatars, to send their minds to target locations and gather intelligence, right? To bring back so they can make strategies and so forth. And this was so well done that they created an entire division just for that. And they were discovering and gathering intel without any risk to human life, because the mission was localized inside of a facility in America, and their minds were the ones going out. Now, with remote viewing, what they do is the person that's going to issue the target, that person consciously connects the target to an ID, a random identification number with a random number generator. And so they're making a conscious link between the target and the random number generator. Now, once that number is generated, the remote viewer themselves don't know the actual target. They can never be told what the target is, because then they'll have interference. What they only get is the target ID number, and that's all you get. You get nothing else. And once you get that target ID number, that's where the magic takes place, because there now is an quantum entangled link between that number and the site location. And so they gave McGonigal a location, a target ID number to a location on Mars 1 million years ago. And so he now sends his mind outside of space and time to track that target ID. He finds himself on Mars. He finds that there are pyramid structures all over the place, that there's remnants of an advanced civilization, and that inside of some of these structures, there are bodies, dark, shadowy figures inside of stasis chambers, because their race was dying out. And so they were extending their lives by spending some time in stasis chambers and sometimes possibly walking around. And that's just amazing, because it really connects to the ancient Sumerian tablets, where they talk about the Igigi in the Epic of Atra-Isis working on Mars. They also talk about the fact that people were coming to and fro from Mars to Earth, They talk about Alalu being sentenced to death on Mars, which was the face was a temple in a tribute to Alalu. And then, so now we're talking about modern day, what we found through the United Family of Anomaly Hunters. We've been researching the Mars data from the rovers for over a decade, and we've cataloged over 50, 60,000 anomalies, things that should not be there that look like remnants of an ancient civilization on Mars. And then we find that Mars has liquid water, oxygen, and everything needed for life right now today, even stabilized, localized magnetic fields. And so, yes, it's been through a lot. We can see that there was a global catastrophe, but we can also see that Mars at one point was habitable and may potentially still be habitable today, which is why it's a target location for a breakaway civilization. So, but this remote viewing of this gentleman was so incredible. He was able to go back in time and see that 1 million years. This solar system has incredible history. And so this validates what we know about the human body, about our avatar, about astral projection, about our ability to send our mind or even send our astral body out of the body, which is talked about in the animal tablets. And Thoth talks about the cymatic frequencies and vibrations to speak, to even open stargates to higher dimensions. All of this, in my opinion, is 1000% real.
It's almost, I mean, unfathomable what we're saying here. And I really invite people just to sit with that information for a second and tune into what actually can we do when we're not limited by these programmings that we've been told. Like, if we were born and our parents were to tell us, hey, like, move that object with your hand, what do you feel a kid would be able to do if it was raised in that way?
Oh, yeah. No limitations, you know? So when we're born, like I always say, we're given a name, a race, and a religion, and we spend our life defending a false identity. We don't know who we are. We're operating within someone else's dominant vibration. We're operating within whatever someone else has imposed on us. And so since their mind has limiting belief that telekinesis and psychic ability and higher levels of intuition don't exist, they impose that on us and they rob us and steal that from us. They also steal our imagination. You go to school, shut up, sit down, don't move, stop fidgeting, stand in a straight line. And all of a sudden, even the imagination is gone. So we lose our ability to even believe in our own personal abilities, our own gifts. And we all have gifts. It's just that most of us never open up the gift package.
And imagination is derived from, or I don't know which word came first, but magic is in there. And I was also just the other day rewatching all the Harry Potter films. And I love that they created that universe to help us remember that we can cast, and we're constantly casting spells as well. You've talked about how prompting is ancient, not just for AI. What do you mean by that with prompting and how? And we talked about suggestions back in the MK Ultra conversation. What do you mean by that? That prompting has been ancient for many years.
Everything is prompting. We've been prompting for millennia. Now we use the word, we're going to prompt. It means, we're going to be talking to AI and we're going to ask it to create something for us or create a code or an image or, check whatever, do an email message for us, whatever. But that prompting is only a fractal of what already existed. The further back you go back in time, the more you realize everything is all about prompting, right? What's prompting? Well, in religious text, we have a figure that is not from Earth, that is prompting a human being by telling a human being, giving a human being instructions. The human being then goes and acts on those instructions. That human being was prompted, right? In the ancient texts and tablets, we find the ordainers of destiny in the Babylonian text, where they're talking about creating their own reality and collapsing futures into existence. And Lil talks about a plan he designed for cities that will remain for all time, he said, on this planet. And so they are prompting, they're putting their conscious mind and their vocalization, their cymatic vibration into the ether and prompting future realities and taking action behind those prompts. And then, of course, we as people, we prompt. If you have children, you prompt your kids, right? Did you clean your room today? I want you to go in your room, pick all your toys up and make up your bed. Then you can go outside. That's a prompt. So prompting is only a fractal of how we operate, how we think, and how we send out instructions. and we now have attributed that or associated that mentally to, talking to AI, but prompting is actually very ancient.
You, Billy Carson, are on an airplane and someone asks you, what do you do for a living? And you always say you have a short answer and a long answer. What do you answer to that question?
The short answer is I create ripples in the space-time continuum that alter future realities in the third dimension. That's the short answer. In other words, I have conscious thoughts that I act on, and those actions are multiplied to create a manifestation. And so what happens is when you have a thought and you act on that thought, the manifestation is delayed in most cases. You have to rendezvous with that manifestation at a different point in space and time. So you send these ripples out into the universe because of actions you take today. And for example, you manifested me onto this podcast. You reached out to me on WhatsApp, you sent me a message, and you prompted me to click on your Calendly link and set up a scheduled appointment to come on this podcast, right? I saw that, and so you multiplied your action. You thought about reaching out to me and having me on the podcast. Then you took action by sending me a WhatsApp message. Then you multiplied that action by sending me a second message with a link to your calendar. So what happened was all you had to do at that point is wait and rendezvous with this moment that we're in right now. And we've rendezvoused, and you have now manifested me on your podcast. And everything we do in reality works this way.
I'm going to reiterate also that formula that you've shared is conscious thought multiplied by action equals manifestation. You talked about this delay or this wait time that there is in between for that manifestation to happen. If we want to shorten the distance between having that conscious thought and having the manifestation in our experience, what can we do to shorten that delay? Or is there even moments where the delay is exactly as it should be and we shouldn't do anything? Is it more conscious thought, more action? Because I know you manifest a lot and very quickly. So what is the formula we have the formula, but how can we raise the values to make that formula in a quicker process? Because then we can manifest things in our life much quicker and live a more fulfilled life in that sense.
Right. It comes down to really a couple things. So sometimes manifestation, the rendezvous, depending on the size of what you're trying to manifest, it could have a universal selected time frame before it can happen because so many steps have to take place before it can actually become reality. And if you're consistently going through all the action steps that it takes and reaching all the benchmarks to get to that point, you can make it happen. Some people have a problem called self-sabotage and procrastination. Those two things are like viruses and prevent most manifestations from happening in a very quick or recent or decent pace. And procrastination and self-sabotage are pretty normal. So if you do it or you have that issue or problem, don't beat yourself up. Just bring awareness to the fact that you are self-sabotaging because why? Because you're afraid of the potential outcome. You are afraid of the success. You are actually afraid of the manifestation actually happening because along with that manifestation is going to come new responsibilities. And you're comfortable and safe and secure in your little box, even if it's toxic, even if there's trauma there. Going out and creating this new paradigm for yourself or this new thing or manifesting this brand new reality, it can be a little bit scary for some people. So subconsciously, their subconscious programming will begin to prompt them to not take action, to not get to work, to not do the to-do list. And when it starts to happen and it starts to look good, and it's really beginning to completely come to fruition, the self-sabotage subconscious will kick in and say, tear this down, because if this happens, then you're going to have to manifest all the time. And you begin to tear it down. And so the key is really bringing awareness to these subconscious viruses called procrastination, because that's a big one, and self-sabotage. And when you bring awareness to that and you begin to work on that and work through that feeling of when that desire to sit back and lay back and not do the work, or that desire to tear something down, you bring the awareness, because you have to realize that you're not your thoughts, you're the observer of your thoughts. And then you can navigate that little glitch in the matrix, and you can get back onto your dominant frequency, your vibration, and you can stay the course and trust the process and move towards that brand new paradigm, because everything you want is on the other side of fear.
What's the long answer to the question, what do you do for a living?
I'm a 6-time best-selling author, writer, producer, musician. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've built many 8-figure businesses. And I'm also a TV host, which is phenomenal, a documentary host, and I'm considered a global thought leader.
Indeed. And a global thought leader as well. One area in specific that I want to highlight there is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And I know that there are, how many tablets are there in total?
15 tablets.
You've highlighted tablet 14 and 15 really powerfully in a recent book as well. And I wanted to explore why you chose out or picked out those two to do a deeper dive on those tablets.
Yeah, I chose those two because those two tablets initially were forbidden to be released to mankind because they were too incredible in what they says, too incredible in their import. In other words, the importance of them was so vast and so incredible that a mind that can grasp it and act on that information can really transform themselves and the world at large. And so when I got my hands on those two tablets, I decided to go in and do a deep dive. And I recognized it was mostly about cymatic frequencies and vibrations and how to access or create these vibrations and frequencies. So I decided to make an interactive book where I went and took these complex phrases, which hardly anyone can read because they're not any specific language and they're very complex, and then to sound out these vibrations and put a QR code next to each individual frequency and then explain and break down what the frequency is and what it means. And then people can scan it while they're reading the book and listen to me speak those vibrations so they can actually replicate that. So they can learn more about the vibration, the cymatic, what the purpose of it is, and how to even create that same cymatic themselves. So powerful book. It's a Forbidden Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that part of that it was forbidden for coming out.
Forbidden.
Forbidden. Forbidden. And what are we understanding now about cymatics in recent developments? You've probably maybe seen a lot of things in the scientific realm that we're discovering.
A lot of exciting things going on. In the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, 36 to 40,000 year old text, he talks about using cymatic frequencies and light, which is photons, to manifest solid matter. Sounds magical and woo-woo. Okay, whatever. That's a bunch of trash you do. Okay, well, let's fast forward into the future. Because just 2 years ago, scientists in a laboratory in the UK took cymatic frequencies and photons, and for the first time in history, manifested solid matter. It made their peer-reviewed information, made it into physics.org, and anyone can look it up. So again, when you see these types of synchronicities between what we call modern science and ancient text, we have to begin to realize they knew what the hell they were talking about. These people were masters of space-time, masters of genetics, masters of sciences and physics and the quantum field. They knew how to access that. Masters of even time and dimensions. And we're just now at the beginning stages of remembering what we already knew. We're in the stage of remembrance. We call these things invention. I came up with this invention, right? This new invention I just got patent pending on. But did I really invent it or did I remember it? See? So it's really the remembering stage. We're all right now in the stage of remembrance, and mankind is beginning to remember. We're shaking off the amnesia.
These remembrances that are coming through for people right now are, for some more accelerated than others. You've talked a lot about raising your frequency. What are some practical things that people can do to bring through these remembrances, if that is something that they intention and desire? Because I know it can be overwhelming at times to remember these things at just like a rapid pace. It's like sometimes it needs to be chewed on, digested, and I understand that as well. But yeah, how would you go about this remembrance process for people? I guess that's a better question.
The first thing we have to realize is most people are full to the top of their avatar, full to the top of trauma, drama, stress, pain, right? So the first thing we have to do is we have to work on making space, because once we make space, we can discern better. So we need to do our shadow work. We need to work on ourselves. We need self-improvement. That's why I started the Forbidden Knowledge Academy. Number one is self-improvement, working on yourself, doing your shadow work, clearing space in your body, right? To be open to receive information directly from the universe itself. And once you begin to work on yourself and you begin to clear space, you become organized. The inside of your inner space is becoming organized, and your outer space is becoming organized. Your traumas are being dealt with. You're recognizing how to deal with them, how to process them, how to move back into gratitude, how to move then from there into love, right? You're recognizing how to show gratitude for what you already have, even though you're looking for more, at least acknowledging what you have and being at peace with that. All these things are just clearing space in the body. And we give a lot of stress relieving meditations, activations. And now when these downloads are coming at you, because they're coming at you 24/7. Right now, both you and I are getting hit with all of these frequencies and all this entanglement. It's up to the vibration that you're on to be able to pick one out and go, hey, this is an interesting thought that just came in my mind. And then to be able to not let it just pass through the mind. So when I was laying in that hospital bed and that thought came to me, ask this question to the universe. If I breathed into something, could it have told me that I had pneumonia? Now, I could have said that and let that thought go and go, okay, that's an interesting thought, I wonder if somebody will invent that one day. And I could have just let it go right through me. Or I can hold on to that moment of that download, and I can continue to massage it. I continue to ask more questions. I continue to dig deeper. I continue to do research. And that led me down the path to the full remembrance of a device that most likely already exists somewhere within the known universe, maybe even existed before on this planet. So it's all about remembering. It's not about really coming up with any new, authentic, individual idea. I believe that all ideas and all concepts and all inventions have already existed. It's only a matter of remembering, because even our own atoms in our bodies are all recycled. We've both been here since the beginning of time, and there's data written directly on each individual atom in our bodies. Scientists discovered this. They don't know how to decode it yet. And so you and I I'm twice your age, right? But however,
twice my size as well.
Twice your size.
Billy is a tall man.
People don't know. When they see me, they go, I didn't know you were that tall.
Billy.
But the thing is, we're both the same age, because our atoms were created at the beginning of this cycle of time within this universe. And the atoms have been here since the beginning, and they're just recycled into the illusion of these two individual avatars right this moment in time. So we're both the same age. And if you have a kid right now, you get married and have a son, your son is the same age as you. We're all the same age. We're all 13.5 billion years old, roughly, right? It's these new concepts of understanding that help us to realize that nothing is new. Like it says in the Bible, there's nothing new under the sun. That's in Ecclesiastes. That's a real statement.
You've mentioned also throughout this conversation, you brought up the word or the term, the human avatar. And, if we look at the movie, the blockbuster, huge, movie series of Avatar, it's when they get transferred their consciousness into these Navis, and then they inhabit those bodies. Is that happening to us as well, as we're in something external, a consciousness inhabiting this human form right now?
I believe that wholeheartedly. That Avatar is just a fractal created into an edutainment film of what we actually are. We are Avatar, and Avatar is us. These bodies could not function or move or do anything unless our consciousness inhabited the actual Avatar body itself. And so scientists were looking at the moment when a spermatozoa entered into the ovum at the exact moment of conception. And what they saw in every case study, this spark of life come into the ovum, right? And then mitosis begins, cell division begins. And so some non-believers want to say, oh, it's just a chemical reaction. It's a lot more than a chemical reaction. In my personal opinion, that's the moment when your spirit entered into your avatar and allows yourself to develop within the avatar itself as it develops from the gestation period all the way till you're born, and then of course grow up as a person, as a being in this third dimension, so that you can have the full and total experience from gestation all the way through. And so I believe that the spirit that's inside of us is tethered to ourself in a higher dimension, but that self is only one consciousness. Just like there's a radio station in my city, it's broadcasting out all these stations. So if I turn on a radio, I could tune to 99.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and I could change the station. There's still only one radio frequency going out, but different point number frequencies can access particular bandwidths and get a different version of music. It's the same way with us. So I'm 99.1, you're 99.2. Our source energy is coming from the same location. Just a slight frequency variance gives me the illusion that I'm Billy, and it gives you the illusion that you're Emilio. However, we're both the same person. There's only one consciousness. We have the illusion of individuality, the illusion of separation, even the illusion of distance. Everything is actually local. And this is the power and the miracle of this third dimension.
I also believe we've convinced ourselves that we are the only conscious species on the planet. If we look at Avatar and those movies, James Cameron, the director and producer, he went and studied marine life for many years. And now he was talking about in a recent interview where whales, they've discovered they could also now begin to decipher their language, their communication, and it's much more complex than ours. They make songs, and you've even said before in our last conversation that whales and dolphins are actually smarter than us. So I'm here thinking, we've said consciousness can insert itself into a human avatar, but where else can it go? Are we talking plant life as well? Are we talking animal life? Are we talking about machines potentially? What are your thoughts on that?
It is everywhere. So consciousness will inhabit everything at all times in any place. Not only will it inhabit animals and even insects. They just did a study, I think it was 4 months ago, it came out, ants. Ants are self-aware. They can recognize themselves in front of a mirror. Isn't that crazy? An ant can recognize itself. They've been studying plants. The vegans aren't going to like this one. Not only do the plants breathe, they have their entire structure is a giant brain. They are self-aware. They can communicate, and they even send warnings that there's a potential predator within their area to other plants within the area and other trees within their area. And they connect through the mycelial network. They have their own World Wide Web under the soil, and they're all connecting and communicating over vast distances, sometimes hundreds, even thousands of miles. And they connected this device to the plants that allows the plants to transmit their vibration into a speaker, and you can hear the plants actually speaking. And when a plant is threatened or getting ready to get cut, before the cut actually happens, the plants scream. Now that's wild. You can even buy one of these devices that lets you hear your plants talk and your flowers talk on Amazon. It's available for sale. It's amazing. So, but not only that, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We know from the observer effect through the double slit experiment that electrons make a conscious decision to be waves of potential or to collapse themselves into the illusion of solid matter based on conscious observation. And so with that being said, that means that every individual atom is conscious. And so that means that every atom in this microphone is actually conscious. My glasses are conscious. My clothing is conscious. A rock is conscious. A blade of grass is conscious. My laptop cover And my laptop itself, it's all, even the components inside the laptop are conscious. AI is inside of a conscious device already. We call it man-made, not recognizing that the device itself is made of atoms. And so we didn't make the laptop. We stacked the electrons and the atoms in a format like Legos that turned it into a tool that we can use. But the atoms themselves were here since the beginning of time. It's a whole new way of looking at things. It's a whole new way of understanding what alive actually is. Everything is alive. Imagine teaching your kids that their backpack and their school clothes and their toys are all living beings, and to revere life with respect and dignity. If you can imbue that into them, how would they then treat their toys and their backpack and their supplies and everything they have, their clothing? They would treat it with more respect and dignity, because they would understand and really believe that everything is alive. It's a new way of seeing things that can transform. That understanding alone can transform the world.
This has been one of our, I would say, most mind-blowing conversations. And it's just an invitation as well, because these may be concepts you've heard before. These may be concepts you're hearing for the first time. But really, I think it's just expanding us into an awareness of who we truly are and where we're headed. I know we're coming up toward the end here, but I wanted to ask you, what really can we derive from all these different directions we went in today around where we are headed as a human race?
I would say to everyone to be optimistic, stay optimistic, because we're going to manifest what our heart vibration is, right? We have 3 hearts. We have our gut heart. We have neurons in our gut. This is why sometimes you go out to eat. You know you're not supposed to get that dessert, but you buy it anyway. That's your gut heart talking. You have your heart chakra, which is a brain. And a lot of us think from our hearts. And then we have our mind, which is our conscious link, right? And in your heart, if you are speaking positively and saying, you know, this is going to be good and we'll make it out of this, but in your hearts of hearts, you don't feel that. You don't sense the feeling of objectively mankind getting through this time and becoming freer. If you don't feel us moving into a golden age, if you don't feel that we'll learn how to love one another the proper way, well, then it won't happen. Because as within, so without. So we need the masses to get on the same vibration, to get on the feeling of gratitude, love, peace, tranquility, service to others, and love for your brother and sister. And to really feel that in your heart of hearts, because that is what will manifest on the outside.
100%. And as you know, Billy, this is our 7th conversation in this aspect together. We end every show with a segment called The Final Trio, which are some questions we ask at the end. Before we get into that, where would you send people to connect with you, your work, anything that you have going on, which is a lot this year, as you were telling me off air? Where would you send us for that?
Right now, we're having a lot of great success building a tribe on the Forbidden Knowledge Academy. That's number 4, 4bkacademy.com with the number 4, 4bkacademy.com. We have 1,700 leaders in the academy, because I don't build followers, I only build leaders. And if you'd like to find your tribe and come and join us over there, I will be your mentor. And I also bring on other mentors with incredible mindsets to help come in and teach. Last time we had an incredible mentor on last night, a doctor who really came in and gave some great wisdom and knowledge. And there's over 150 hours worth of classes and training inside the academy already, plus my lives, plus my private mentoring. It's an amazing academy, so I'd love to see you at the 4bkacademy.com.
Beautiful. We'll put that link down in the show notes where people go directly and explore that as well. The final trio, all 3 questions are personalized to the guest. The first one I had for you is, what does wisdom mean to you?
Oh, wow. That's a powerful question. Wisdom to me means not just knowledge, because I'm sitting in the room right now, and if I had 1,000 books and devoured all those books into my mind, downloaded them, every single one of them, and just never left this room, people might think I had a lot of wisdom, but I don't. I have a lot of knowledge, which doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean anything until I act on it. So until I take what I've learned and act on it and have an effect on something else, then that's wisdom. So when I leave this room and I take some of the knowledge that I've learned and downloaded, and then take action behind it and have a positive effect out in the real world to others, now I'm experiencing wisdom. So knowledge by itself is not power. The application of knowledge is power, and that power is wisdom. That's what it is.
And it's so interesting because our higher self, our life always sends us experiences to test whether the knowledge that we have is actually embodied or we need to develop it even further. And I've experienced this many, many times before, because it's like, oh, you know a lot, but how about you go put it into practice, you know?
Yeah.
The second question I had for you is, what inner capacity do you believe humans must develop next in order to thrive in the Aquarian age?
The biggest thing we have to develop is the ability to not fall for the divide and conquer tactics. These divide and conquer tactics are the main key factor in us not being able to collaborate with each other. It's put us into a competition mindset. So we're in a competition over collaboration mindset. We got to shift from competition over collaboration to collaboration over competition. And to do that, we have to begin to see through the divide and conquer tactics. We can't allow them to continue to program us with left wing, right wing, this religion, that religion, this belief system, that belief, all the dogma, all the fear-based material, all these things are your status is, I'm rich and you're poor. Your skin reflects a photon a different way than my skin reflects a photon. It's really stupid. We have to grow up as a species and put away all these programmed divide and conquer tactics and realize that the people that are putting those tactics on us are the best of friends behind the scenes, and they're just cutting up the pie and laughing at us.
This final question I had for you today is really around your legacy, the one that you've already built and are continuing to build. So what part of your work in your life feels complete, and what still feels unfinished?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I really feel like my goal to touch a percentage of the world, it's not finished. But I'll tell you, after having that near-death experience in 2024, I realized that if that was the end, I lived the life of 10 men. And I feel like I've left a conscious legacy on this planet. There are so many people everywhere I go that have given me positive words of affirmation on how my information has affected them positively and changed their lives. I mean, I can't even just walk down the street anymore. I'm getting stopped every 10, 15 minutes if I go for a walk on the beach, or I go to an event or a movie theater or a flight. It's incredible the positive effect that I've been able to see, that people have come up to me and told me that they've experienced, and how it's changed their lives and how it's changed their thinking and everything else. So I feel like that legacy is in place. Now I'm going to continue to teach until my last breath, but that legacy is established. What I would like to work on now and perfect is I would like to perfect relationship. That's my biggest thing now. I've gone and done a lot of work over the last year on my childhood traumas, on my personal self, looking for self-improvement, self-growth within myself, shadow work, and also really deeply researching what is relationships, what are red flags that I keep ignoring, and how to not fall prey to some of those predators that are out there that have these red flags. To see through those flags, see through things like love bombing and use, see through connecting with people who pretend to be givers but are really takers. And so I'm really working on perfecting my perception of a relationship, and what a healthy relationship actually is, and how a person truly acts, and also making sure I move slowly this time and give itself time to grow and evolve, so that I can see and understand exactly where I am and where that person is, and how we maybe connect and move on together on the same path or not. So it's more about having patience and understanding, working on myself. And right now I feel like I have the most patience that I've ever had in my life. I'm at the best place in my life for a good long-term loving relationship. And the good news is, even though I've been married a few times, I still haven't given up on love, and I haven't given up on having a long-term relationship. So it's all part of just the learning process. It's, it's part of my journey, and I embrace it.
Beautiful, man. Thank you for bringing that to the table and openly sharing that with us. I am amongst one of those people that you've touched very deeply, and I just wanted to say I appreciate you so much, brother, for the work that you do, for who you are as a person, and the example you set as well. So I know we'll continue this lifetime friendship for other lifetimes as well. And I'm super excited for what's coming for you and how I can support you in any way possible. So thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man.
You too, man.